Hello, and welcome back to the Jackson Hearth. And today we are going to continue to talk about decluttering. And today we're going to be looking at the emotional and sentimental cluttering, or things that we get that is cluttered, and how to declutter that. And I think this one for me is probably one of the toughest ones because we're going to be discussing maybe heirlooms, maybe things that were given to you by somebody. So this one I think will help you to either, help you to get rid of those things that you're attached to emotionally or sentimentally. So hold on while I share my screen and we get started today. So again, we are going to talk about emotional and sentimental clutter. Now, the question is, let's see if I can. What is emotional and sentimental clutter? So, emotional and sentimental clutter, it refers to the items that people hold on primarily because they invoke emotions, memories, or represent significant life experiences, people, or accomplishments. Now, this is rather than for practical value. So basically, you're holding on to it because it makes you feel a certain way or it invokes a certain thing. For example, when my grandmother passed away, I have all of her cookware. So I have all of her pots, her pans, her skillets. I did give some away, but I had the majority of those. And while they are sentimental and have an emotional context, they're also practical. I can use them. So I was able to kind of save them because of that reason. Now, this really is often the hardest and most difficult part of decluttering. And as we go through, we will see why. And I'm sure you can think of some things. Maybe you were given something by your late mother or your late grandmother, or maybe it was a friend that you no longer speak to because of life or something, but you can have those memories. But I will also be discussing ways to keep that emotional and sentimental and the memories without having to keep the actual physical thing. Now, one of the examples for sentimental clutter is like relationship reminders. Now, these could be gifts. Maybe um, your best friend from high school gave you something and you haven't seen each other for 20 years, but when you look at it, you remember what you did in high school, or it brings back, or maybe it's, you know, something from your husband. Um, that you've been married for a while, but you have this gift that was maybe one of the first or second things he gave you, and that is sentimental. So, um, and these can be things you may not even like it, you may not even use it, but you keep it because of the memories. We also have heirlooms. These are probably one of the larger things. Now, heirlooms are things that you feel that you are obligated to keep. Now, eventually, after the person who gave them to you has passed away. Okay, yeah, I that can be tough. I had to make some hard decisions after my grandmother passed away. I had her china cabinet, I had my grandfather's desk, I had a number of different furnitures and things like that over, I think it's been 9 years, I've been able to get rid of. Maybe you give it to family so you still see it, or things like that. But these could be things that you feel obligated to keep. Letters, cards, and notes. So these are things that um, maybe um, I hate to say this, maybe an old boyfriend wrote you a letter or something. An old girlfriend wrote you a letter, and you're still friends to this day. But they wrote it to you, and it's sentimental. It's something that reminds you of the past. It's something that reminds you, you may not want to be reminded. Again, you may, it's, or maybe it was notes from a teacher, or maybe it was something like that. Now, these things, remember in our last one, we talked about the memory box. So some of these things could be put, if you want to keep them, in a memory box. That's just one example of how to keep that. So, but I will be talking about other ways to make sure that you are able to have the same emotions and feelings and thoughts without really having to keep the physical copy. Now, this is something too we just talked about with heirlooms. Now, this is items from deceased loved ones. These could, again, we talked about these. It could be clothing, it could be furniture, it could be collections. Um, for example, I do still have two shirts of my grandmother's. I'll give all their clothes away. I still have two. Um, but they're actually in my memory box. So they're folded up really nice and tight, and they're put in the memory box that I have. And if you can do that, that's fine. But you want to make sure they have their place. You don't want them to be cluttering the home. But if you can find a place in a memory box, or maybe you have a cedar chest, it's a memory cedar chest that you put stuff in, as long as it has its home. Now, I'm not saying to keep it, but these are ways that you can keep things that they're all in one area. So they're not all over the house. Now, so these could be accomplishments or something that's your identity, like trophies, awards, plaques, things that are past achievements. Like, so for me, I was in 4-H and I was the outstanding 4-Her for 3 years in a row. So I still have those plaques. Now, I'm in the process of getting rid of them. I just don't know where they are out there packed somewhere. But when I find them, I'm probably gonna get rid of them because I don't see them. I don't, they're just taking up space, and they're taking up space where I could use the space. So, even trophies and awards, I'm probably going to get rid of those. Um, but again, we'll talk about ways to be able to have them without having them. Clothing. Now, you may no longer be able to wear these, but you keep them because you may wear them again. Now, sometimes I like to call this is my call, what I call is my fantasy self clutter, meaning that I'm keep a pair of pants I used to wear, but I've gained weight and can't wear it. Yeah, I keep it because it's a fantasy of mine to get back down, but for me it never happens. I just end up keeping them and just moving them from place to place. But what I like to do now instead of that is I would get rid of them. If you can't wear them, just get rid of them. If you haven't worn it in, my thing is if I haven't worn it in a year, then I'm probably not going to wear it. I give it away, and if I lose the weight or whatever, I'll buy something new to reward myself. So I think, these things are things we have to look at. Again, I have to go through some more because I have lost some weight. So if they're too big, I get rid of them because other people could use them. Work-related items. Now, these could be things that represent a past career or a high point in your career. Um, Again, these could be anything from achievements. These could be awards you got from an old boss. These could be um trophies that you got because you were top of your agency. These could be anything. Now, again, remember, we do have the memory box, so we can use that. Um, but let's, try to keep it, and I mean, again, if there's ways that you can put it away it's away, it's not clutter, it's not taking up any room where you need it, then for now, while you are still trying to deal with it, um, just put it there. But I don't want this to be a thing that's going to give you anxiety or upset you. This is the why I saved this one for next to last, because sentimental and emotional clutter is the hardest thing to get rid of. It's the hardest thing to deal with. So take your time, day by day, week by week, to get rid of things. I don't want you to cause yourself anxiety. I don't want you to cause yourself to get upset. These are things that you just need to take your time. And if you're not ready, you're not ready. But there will come a time where you will be ready. And I'm hoping by the end of this um, video to be able to help you give some ideas on what you can do. But now collections. Now this could be things that no longer bring you joy, but you feel the link to the identity. Okay. This could be things like, okay, for me, baseball cards. Yeah. I used to like to collect baseball cards when I was younger. I no longer like that, so I got rid of all my baseball cards years ago. But these are things like that. Maybe you used to knit, you used to cross stitch, you used to make quilts, you used to make clothing, you used to video game, but they don't really bring you any joy anymore. You just keep them because it was your identity. That's the link to your identity. But when you think about it, that link to your identity may have changed. Your identity may have changed, but you're keeping these things that was your identity, but we don't, but it may not be your identity now. Like for now, I collect books, and that's what I do. I love to study, I love to read. So I make sure that whatever I have, I make room for a book that I might want. But if I don't want to keep the book, I'll just go to the library. But if I want to keep the book and read over it, then I make space. What I try to do for my collections is for books is if I buy one, I try to get rid of one. Or if I buy something, I try to get rid of something. Therefore, I'm making room. Experiences and memories. This for me is kind of what I used to do. Souvenirs. Now these could be from trips or vacations. It could be a rock, it could be shells, it could be ticket stubs. Maybe you went to a okay, let's go back in the day. I'm a Gen X. So let's go back. Let's say you went to a Boys to Men concert back in the early 90s, or you went to a Monica concert and you're trying to keep those memories, or maybe you took your kids to the circus and you kept the ticket stubs to remind you of that. Or you went to your first cruise, or maybe your first time to Europe, and you brought back maybe a seashell from the beach there, or maybe you found a beautiful rock there that you brought back. These things, you know, can cause clutter because maybe, again, do they have to be seen, or can you put them in your memory box? Get a memory box and put in there. I think that, we need to make sure, like we've talked about, is that every place should have its own home. So with that, ticket stub, the shells, the rocks, if you are not able to part with them now, put them in a memory box. Put them in that memory box. And remember that memory box, you go through it periodically to take things out once you feel that you no longer need that, or once it feels there's no longer joy, there's no another connection. Okay, kids, artwork, paperwork, and old toys and clothing. Okay, so yeah, these are often kept by parents, but I can tell you, I still have toys and stuffed animals that my grandfather gave me over 30 years ago. But I've been taking my advice. So I have a little nephew that I've given some of my stuffed animals to keep it in the family. So I've been able to, or I've given some things to some baby cousins or things like that. So while I've not really trashed them or donated them to people, I've given them to family that may see that as a great benefit or something. But yeah, I mean, clothing, I mean, it's difficult. Most parents keep the baby shoes. They have them. I don't know if they still do that now, but when I was growing up, you would have your baby shoes bronzed. I don't know why bronze, but they were bronzed. So I don't know if or you would keep the first suit that the baby wore, whether it be a dress or some pants or something. You kept that. Maybe, maybe, and this sounds really weird, you kept their first tooth or their first lock of hair. These are things that parents keep, or maybe it was their artwork. Because I know I was cleaning out my grandmother's house when she passed, and I found things that I had made in kindergarten. I am 40, I was in my 30s when she passed. So she kept them for over 20 years. I think it used to be macaroni, but there was no macaroni on it. So I decided to get rid of it. So these are just things that that bring parents joy when they see them. It brings back and you remember the little child that you once had that has grown up. But again, if you can't if you can't get rid of it, put it back into our memory box. Photos and pictured and printed pictures. Now, these are probably going to be things like duplicates or blurry ones. You kept every picture. Like, it's okay to have the pictures, it's fine, yes. But if you have duplicates, get rid of one of them or two of them, or how many you have, or the ones you can't really tell what it is. It should be an elephant, but it looks like a big gray blob. Get rid of those things, so you want to make sure they're not duplicated. You make sure that that you don't have blurry ones. Now, for me, this is actually something I have to do. So I have to go through some old pictures that my grandparents left. They're from old family members. I'm, trying to go through them and see if I can see or figure out who they may belong, like go to, because obviously, um, if my cousin's mother or grandmother or something is in there, I want to make sure that my cousins get that. Um, so they have it for their family. But yeah, pictures again, you can have in um, so I have two memory boxes. One is for things and one is for photos. Um, I have one especially just for photos, and it's smaller, but two, remember, I think two with photos, you now may be able to, I don't know how long they stay, but you now may be able to not have to keep the hard copy, but to have them scanned into digital copies. So you have that digital copy that you can keep, and you don't have to have all those photos. That's something to look into. That's what I'm looking into as well. Formal wear. Now, these are probably it's gonna be mostly probably for the ladies, and maybe some men, but okay, your wedding dress or your bridesmaids dresses, or maybe it was your prom dress or a formal dress that you're never gonna wear again. Well, wouldn't it be nice? I mean, I understand the wedding dress is but what if you use that wedding dress and you remade it for something else? Maybe, so that it's just not hanging up. Because remember, clothing, if you get moths, moths will eat the clothes. So, a bridesmaid dress. Okay, maybe you sell it for a prom dress. Maybe you give it to a niece, or cousin that's going to the prom, and you say, "Oh, I have this. I think this would look great." Or maybe it's your wedding dress. I have a friend of mine who she took her wedding dress and she made it her daughter's christening gown. So it's now going to be able to be used in the family over and over because it's now a christening gown. So, and a christening gown can be worn by boys or girls because it's the way it's very formal. It's white. So that is something you kind of maybe find a new purpose for. Um, but yeah, those things, and I know a lot of girls who kept their formal dresses and their prom dresses and their bridesmaids dresses for years, but they decided that it would, instead of it getting, eaten by moths and things, they decided to either donate it um to a charity, or they decided to hand it down, and therefore it's being reused and not taking up clutter in their house. Again, take your time, look at it, think about it. You have to go through these things at a slow pace. Journals, diaries, and old school notebooks. Okay, so this really kind of hits me, and I don't mind talking about myself because I used to clutter everything. Now, journals and diaries I do keep because I don't want nobody else to read what I have to say, but they do get put in a special place on my bookshelf. I've made room for that. I don't have that many, so they are there. Now, old school notebooks I throw away. I've even gone as far as to throw away all my annuals from school. I didn't need them. I don't see the people. We've moved on. I've gotten, and it was just cluttering. It was just taking up space. So I had 13 annuals that I just threw away, just got rid of. And I think that that's what you have to look at. Are these things still bringing you joy? Now, old school notebooks, I do actually have no more high school notebooks, but I do have college notebooks. One, because they are in my field of education. So I have a communication notebook that I look back if I need to know of a theory, or I have some Bible notebooks that I have Bible notes that I look back if I need to refer to something. from a past lecture. Um, and I think those are fine. But again, you want to make sure that you have room. So, like on a bookshelf or something for these, they want to have a spot. They don't, so, and I think that's the key thing is if you want to keep something, see if you can get rid of something. And the same thing goes for anything of decluttering. Um, so when I buy something, I try to get rid of something, donate it, or give it to somebody who I know needs it. So emotional clutter. These are some of the traps that we're going to talk about here. Because there are many traps that the emotional clutter can get us in. The first one is guilt and obligation. And this is keeping the gifts and heirlooms out of the fear or upsetting who gave it to you. And you also feel that it's dishonoring someone deceased. So, you know, this I can understand. It is bad. I think, when I gave away, actually, sorry, I sold it. So my grandfather's desk and my grandmother's china cabinet to my cousin, and I felt a little guilt about it, but I saw what she did with it, and she gave it a new life. It's very beautiful what she's done with it. Um, so I'm really happy. I think that when you see, if you want to keep it in the family, see if somebody in the family wants it. So my cousin took some like I said, a china case, which if you know of a china cabinet, you have the bottom, then you have the top. Well, she actually separated them. And it's very beautiful how she did it. And I think that sometimes we don't see the potential that something has because we're afraid to do something different to it because we hold that emotional. But if we give it to someone, sell it to someone, they can make it beautiful again. So yeah, that's a trap, and I fell for it. I think I actually fell for most of these. So now, fear of forgetting. Now, this is stressing about getting rid of an object that could have me to forget the memory of the connection that it holds. Like, and I still have that one, I guess, is I still have a stuffed dog that my grandfather gave me. And I guess I have a fear of forgetting. I stress about it. Fear of forgetting my grandfather if I give that away. And that's something that I'm having to deal with. And I have not been able to let go. But there are some things like I had some other things, like some of my grandmother's jewelry. I had a fear of that. But again, I left it in the family. Some cousins wanted some. I gave some things to my sister-in-law. So I kept them in the family. I just passed them down. So I've had to find, and I'm hoping you can find ways to get around these traps, ways that you can be able to move past focus. Now, this is holding on to objects that reinforce things were better in the past and the present. Okay, so for me, it's music. I'm not even gonna lie, because today's music, I find it horrid. But that's just me. I think music was better in the past. They were still talking about the same things they were now. They were just doing it in different ways. I'm not saying the music was any more wholesome. They just figured out ways to do it where it wasn't blatant. There was not a lot of cussing. Um, but this for me was not hard, but it could be for somebody else. It could be that you look at something and you remember how good it was. And I'm not saying it won't happen to me later in life, but you may have um, a table or you may have a bed and you remember say, oh, this bed, they didn't make it like they used to. This is one, so this is a total, it's it's total acceptable. And again, with the emotional and the sentimental, take your time. There's no hurry. Take your time to do it. Think about it. Look at different things. Future focus. Now, this again is as I deemed it, my fantasy self, which yeah, I'm not even going to fit in a pair of 32 jeans. I don't care how much. I mean, I want to fantasize about it. I'm not going to fit in them. But keep it things for a person or persons that you think should have it and not the person you are. So basically, this is like for me. I may keep something because I think, oh, well, my little nephew would want it. He probably is not going to want it because he's different than me. Or I may keep it and say, oh, I would give this to, my, my cousins or my, something like that, or a friend if I, no, they don't have the same emotional attachment that you do. So most likely they're not going to want it. So again, these are things that if you're keeping them to give to the future, just get rid of them now. Um, give them, find somebody, ask some people if they want them. I mean, these could be people who collect them or something, so don't just keep them because you want to give them to somebody in your family, because most likely they don't have the same attachment that you do. Now, in closing, now let's remember with sentimental and emotional clutter, we have to realize that the memories do not exist. They exist in your mind, heart, not in the object itself. So this is where I wanted to talk about it. Now, we did talk about pictures, but what I have found out is if I take a picture of things that I once had, like I have a picture of the animals that I gave to my nephew, and what I do is I keep them, they're digital, so I can just put them away if I want to look at them. So there are ways like I have a picture of the china cabinet, I have a picture of the desk, I have a picture. So I have pictures that still bring up those emotions, that still bring up those memories. So you don't have to keep the item. So if you find something, let's take, for example, I'm going to take something very sentimental and very emotional, a wedding dress. You say, I can't get rid of the wedding dress because if I get rid of the wedding dress, I won't remember my wedding. Well, I'm sure there are pictures of you in your wedding dress somewhere around your house, but what you can do is take a picture of that wedding dress with you out of it, or if you want, put, and hanging up, and you'll see that picture. And every time you look at it, you're going to remember your wedding day or how you felt in it. But let's think maybe it was maybe somebody passed away, maybe, and you don't have room for some things but you don't want to get rid of. So you take them and they're just cluttering. Take a picture of those items. Put them digitally, take a picture of your phone, save them to a hard drive, or to an external hard drive, and you will have those pictures forever. Now, also we have to think about that. And I think that that's the one thing that we can do. But again, when it comes to emotional and sentimental cluttering, these should be done last. Do not do sentimental or emotional cluttering first. You want to wait. Wait till you have the emotional and the the emotions to deal with it, to look at it, to think about it, because it's going to be hard. This is probably the hardest part of decluttering, or these things. But again, just if you can, take a picture of them, put them on your phone. You can look at them because I go back and look at some of my old things that I have. And those are going to bring the memory. It's the memory of it. You have the memory here. It's not in the object. You remember back when your grandmother was alive. You remember back when your mom was alive, or your dad, or your brother, whoever it might be, was alive, and they may not be here anymore. Or maybe it was um your kiddos. Take a picture of their shoes. Take a picture of something they wore, so you don't have to keep the item. Because remember, clothing will and can rot, and they can get moss. Shoes are going to start to crack. So eventually, it's not going to be the item that you saved anyway. But if you need to, like I have two memory boxes, I have, one's a little bigger than the other one, put some things in there until you need to deal with it again. Use one for things like ticket stubs, books, notebooks, journals. But again, you can put the journals on your shelf. But put the things in one of your memory boxes that are like small trinkets. Maybe it's jewelry or something. But in the other one, you have a photo memory box. So I think that is really good that you need to really look at. So in the end, we need to take our time in this. And this, I'm not, I'm speaking to myself because there are some things that I need to go through still that are emotionally attached to. Because I feel like, if I get rid of it, then I won't remember it. So I'm speaking to myself. I'm speaking to the choir, as I would say. But yeah, so take your time. If you have any questions, have any concerns or thoughts, please feel free to leave a comment. And don't forget to check out our Patreon's page where I will be uploading the videos as well as the PDFs of my talks. Now, next week, we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. One is going to be decluttering our mind. We're going to figure out how to declutter our mind and get that thing and keep our mind very organized. We're also going to be talking about digital decluttering. And then we're also going to talk on a spiritual declutter and what happens when you declutter, what happens to you spiritually when you declutter. So I look forward to seeing you again next week, and thank you for joining me here. And from my heart to yours, I will see you next time. Bye bye.